find some rolling papers to make a smoke whilst I make the live stream. Rest the phone. I'm a bit like a caveman myself at the moment. I'm being somewhat tortured by the sun. I've been disconnected from nature over the past year, likely as a result of the antipsychotic medication I've taken. For my whole life, the best part of my life, my emotions matched the weather. And when it was sunny, it was because I was happy. Or when it was sunny, it was because I was sad, and the sun soothed the sadness. Or vice versa, when I'm happy, the sun complemented, that's the word I was looking for, complemented the emotion of happiness. When it was not sunny, the rain, for instance, there'd be another happiness to find within rain. Over the past year or so, where my condition has increased in terms of pressure and severity to life, a sunny day, the sun beating down on you, is torture, because you're praying for rain to soothe the internal fires. And vice versa, when it's cold inside because of almost like a depressive state or whatever other pressures I'm going through in life, you're praying for sun for the same reasons, and you get the cold or the rain. So it's like the weather, from being a soother, becomes a personal trainer, training you through your problems by making them worse. And today, we'll call it oblivion, is where I currently am. And all I want to do is pass out and go to sleep. Not because I want to go to sleep, just because I don't know what else to do to remove the torture of existence. I hope that when I wake up again, sort of thing, whatever false emotions are being shoved down my neck are going to be a little bit more manageable than the ones I'm currently being forced to experience. But my mental health is like the weather at the moment. It's a personal trainer in making my life even harder. It'll put me to sleep when I don't want to sleep, and when I want to sleep, it won't let me sleep. So I'm here, sitting here, and I don't know what to do with the unbearable pain of life. I have a realization about the caveman, and I thought I'd share it to myself. On live stream. The realization is a perspective of the caveman isn't quite accurate. We imagine the caveman to be a brutal, animal-like barbarian. But I can only imagine that to be half true. Or at least, if we take it to the perspective of sex and get that clear, we can then rebuild a correct perspective of the caveman thereafter to see what he or she may have been like. And I start by telling a story of something that I don't think many people will ever tell, especially live on camera to the world. And that is a story of a teenage me having feelings of a sexual nature and exploring masturbation for the first time, and thereafter ejaculation. And my mental health is making it very difficult to state something that's factual, so I might end the live stream a lot sooner than I thought. But as a teenage boy, it was a stumbling process. You have these feelings down below that are confusing and unpleasant, and it's like it's natural to go to the penis and masturbate. But the process of ejaculation isn't pleasant. It's like the body needs to urinate. And through the physical manipulation, the disturbance of that feeling in that area, ejaculation happens. But I remember the first time it happened for me, and it wasn't pleasant. It wasn't pleasant at all. It was a strange sensation, and I didn't know what had happened. Now, if we go back to the caveman times, there would have been any magazines that had half-naked ladies in them that were accessible to teenage boys. No TV programs with half-dressed women. No glamorization of sex. Women would have been women, and they would have been naked walking about. To see a naked body would have been natural, as to see anything else. The feeling down below was only told to me by the environment of school. Oh, it's the penis, it's something, it's sex, it's this, and sex was all over TV, sex was all over the billboards. Sex was everywhere in this world. And we don't live an athletic life like a caveman would. We don't go out there and exert that energy in our body to hunt and be wild like our caveman selves. And for that reason, we get a lot of stagnated energy in the wrong places. Sorry, I'm dealing with a lot of pain at the moment as well, all over my body this time, hence my expressions and discomfort. But it was remembering the experience. It wasn't pleasant. It's not something I think I would have thought, oh yeah, I want to do that again. It wasn't pleasant at all. It's only through the world that we realize, oh, eventually that's what took place. I just masturbated. I just did this, and in this world is acceptable. For the caveman, I think where we hit that period at the age of 13, it may have come later in life, say in the age of 20, in our 20s, possibly our late teens. And we haven't got magazines, we haven't got the need to do anything with our penis. I think what would happen is a process of insanity where we'd lose our mind to the inevitable frustration of what's going on down below. The female body that wouldn't be hidden and clothed and everything else in like it is in this world and not glamorized in any way would almost be like a flower or anything else that you can imagine in nature, a tree, a stream that you've seen your whole life and has been nature, all of a sudden has a strange attractiveness to it. And remembering those feelings of what it was like to experience all of those sexual energies and going through a fever-like sexual process at the moment where I'm being forced to experience sexual energy when I don't masturbate anymore. And having those waves come over me, it's very unpleasant. And I imagine that's what it would have been like for a caveman. And in that place, it's very humbling. It's very almost returning to a childlike state. That same place that I was when I was a 13-year-old or however old I was. And it happened in this life for the first time. And in that place, you're half going mad on one level. And on another level, when those feelings come over you, all of that madness and all of that aggression that we imagine the caveman to have held and probably would have been there on some level in a more controlled way because we're active within nature. We're a bit more wild. We can scream. We can hit a tree without needing to hurt ourselves. We go through this polarization of extreme madness, but the madness is only contained within a very unschooled mind. So in other words, the madness is just like another day. And the period that we go through in our 20s would be just like a growing up like we've gone through our whole life. But when those feelings of sex come over us, it's humbling. It reduces us to being a child. And in the final process of attraction to a woman, we imagine the caveman to, well, at least I did, to have almost been barbaric in terms of borderline rape to a woman. Or why I've got this uncontrollable need for sex like an animal. To take a woman and it to be a natural act, to dominate the woman, control the woman, have sex, and it be done with. Remembering those emotions when I was a teenager, feeling the emotions and feelings in my life now in relationship to sex, I don't believe that's the case at all. What my life has shown me is it's going to be more like every time you take a step forward to that attraction, those sexual feelings come over you, and you're humbled in that process to a child. It's going to be like it's going to be like you take a step forward to that attraction, and that unpleasant sensation of that sexual feeling comes over you because it's unpleasant, and you become a child again, and you can no longer take a step. And then you get used to that first step, and then you take another step and another step, until one day, for whatever reason, a woman, I don't know how it is for a woman, but I'm sure it's half the same process, takes a step towards you, and then you take a step back. And it's a constant dance of steps forward, steps back, until one day you meet. And in that meeting process, you are basically a grown man looking probably something like this, your body being flooded with sexual sensations that are confusing. You don't know why you're attracted to this, but you're attracted to it. You've been doing this dance probably for years now. And finally you stand there, man to woman. And all of that barbaric nature is reduced to something that is a child in a man's body. The idea that you're going to take a woman and control her like an animal, I believe is wrong. I believe in that process it's a bit more natural. We lose our minds to a certain extent of what we can do as an idea, and nature takes over us and it becomes a natural experience. And that's as far as it gets in my contemplation today of what it would be like for a caveman to have sex. And in that place we can take into account more spiritual ideas of what it means to have sex. All of the practices that are taught nowadays to a conditioned mind of this world, wouldn't be surprised if they are more of a case of the natural process of sex within humanity from ideas and times of what it was when we were cavemen. I wouldn't also be surprised if through our coming together as a community, understanding sex as a community, small communities, we begin to realize what sex is through conditioned mind. And adults teach the children this is wrong. As soon as we teach the children this is wrong, we corrupt it. And when we corrupt it, we give rise to inaccuracies coming about in terms of sexual practice. At that moment, sex gets corrupted and sex starts to become something. It becomes a practice, it becomes something to explore, it becomes something sacred, it becomes something evil. And I wouldn't be surprised if we have half-fucked nature ourselves. And what we see in nature, with nature taking on humanity's corrupted need for sex, because it's very real. When I've been very sexually energetic, how do I put this? I'm very sensitive to energy. I hold a lot of energy. I've done a lot of energy work in my life. And when I've been powerful, so to speak, within my energy field, and my energy field has held a lot of sexual energy, even if I've not acted on it, especially when I've not acted on it, and I go for a walk or something to cool down, it's surprising how many times where I used to live, there were a lot of foxes, and the foxes, you could hear them at those times, would be aroused, and you could hear them having sex. You know when a fox is having sex, they're very loud. And well, there's 8 billion of us, and we're all sick to sex in this world. You could say we hold sex for nature and the animal kingdom. When humanity is fucked in a sexual way, I'm not surprised if we half fuck nature. And all of those images of apes and chimpanzees and tigers and lions going at it in a very natural way, but very, what would be imagined is the caveman way, I believe is just nature suffering our sickness as a human race. My thinking is that chances are, if all of humanity were a bit more natural to what I've just expressed as the natural way of what it would be like for a caveman to have sex, I wouldn't be surprised if nature copied us. It'd be wonderful, but it would also be very curious to see what nature would be like with 8 billion, I wouldn't say conscious souls, because I don't think we could have 8 billion people here on the planet with the mind of a caveman, the way of a caveman to be wild in nature, to have to follow a natural course of sex. Because as soon as we said the people start coming together into communities and cultures and everything else and get together, we sort of put an end to the idea of natural sex. So we do have to use those sexual practices, but I don't know of a sexual practice that really encourages natural sexual communication and meeting other than whatever my uncle has stumbled across in his own Taoist learnings, and has passed on to me without me understanding that he was passing on sexual wisdom to me, natural sexual wisdom. His information to me was very much in relationship to the world. And through that, I've taken that and understood that in my own life to the point where I don't really desire sex in the same way as I once did. It's a lot more natural now. Other than what my uncle has passed on to me that comes from Taoism, and that had to be passed on to me where my mind was unconditioned. So it's almost like you can't study in Taoism and do this from a perspective of mind. It has to be passed on to the children so they're aware of it in an unconscious way. Because that's the way of natural sex. This process wouldn't have been possible of what I've had to go through to cleanse myself of the way sex is portrayed in this world. If I had wanted it in any way, if I had said to myself, this is the way, this is what's going on, I know what's going on, this is what I have to do now, it's been a lot more unpleasant. It's been a lot more disgusting with all of those emotions towards the sexual feelings. And it's really strange. It doesn't look, I mean, as the waves come over me and all of the sexual feelings come over me, it's like sex no longer looks like sex would have once been. You know, the what's the Indian book of sex? The book of you know what I'm talking about? The Indian book of sex, Kama Sutra. It wouldn't look like that at all, or at least maybe one position would have been it, because the penis sticks out the front, and as I'm going through this process, it just no longer feels natural for that to be the case. I don't know if you can understand that. And in having these feelings come over me and having my mental health been activated by it, and my mental health keep forcing on me ideas of sex even though I'm not listening. They're there and they're going on in my head, so I'm half aware of them on one level. But on another level, I'm doing my best to ignore them. I'm having ideas of what it would be like to that dance of meeting a female. And in the final meeting, what would feel natural isn't the Kama Sutra, isn't what position can I get in to be a man, to make a good show. It's a case of no, it'd be almost like a very humbling process where we become small, maybe even to the extent where we're squatting. I don't know if you can understand that. You probably can't unless you've been through a process similar to this. And in that smallness, you just meet. I don't know how the final process will be. I just imagine it would be a case of just being rather than doing. But from my own experience of sexual wisdom passed on to me by my uncle and living it, a life that holds that wisdom, that had no real subject on sex, but understanding that what my uncle was passing on to me came from Taoism and was in relationship to the world, and somehow that was hidden within all of that information, at least on some level. And to see how my life has changed as a result of embracing that wisdom to the world, and as a result how my sex has changed again through time, it's let's just say it's not how it looks in the movies, blue movie or not. So or on the billboards. And I'm going to end it here because I'm in too much pain. But if that's the natural process of sex for a human being, can we reshape what it would have been like for a caveman to have been alive? Because at the same time, the pains and the fires of life would have been there. That barbaric nature would have been there on some level. I can well imagine a caveman just taking his club and hitting and killing a woman because he's a bit insane that day for no reason. But I can't imagine him raping a woman for no reason or any reason. It's too strange a process, but I've not gone through that final step of that meeting point myself to see if it's something to be desired in the finality, if it's something to be respected. Because don't forget, if the man is going through an insane process through the stimulation of sexual energies in his system, and that final dance is a very strange dance, and in the final meeting there isn't anything else but a relief in one way or another from all of that pain. I think women become like a god, and that's something to be respected. There's no way you can recreate or want to recreate all of that sexual energy because it's so unpleasant an experience when you have life anyway. You go and hunt, you go and do what you do, you've done it for the last 20 years, that is your life. And then all of a sudden you have these sexual energies come over you and this insanity come over you. And in the final process, a woman relieves you of your insanity. Maybe my statement just now that a man would club a woman over her head for no reason isn't maybe the whole truth. If what a woman holds is the end of that suffering, the end of that insane period, and the man regains his composure thereafter and lives another God knows how many years before that energy comes back over his life and mind for a woman to relieve him thereafter. With that break of maybe another 5 years, 10 years, however long it would be, and those sexual energies to come back, how many times do you think a caveman would have to do that? To remember that process, to remember all of those steps, so that when it comes back next time, he goes straight to a woman to rape. I think there'd be quite a few times it would need to happen, and by the time consciousness comes to mind that, oh, this sexual feeling has come over me, woman relieves me of this feeling, let me go to woman and let me take control this time to find relief. By that time, woman would be God. We've become perverted in our enlightened coming together and growing. And the way we've become perverted is that we've taken the consciousness of sex that would have taken possibly hundreds of years to have gained that wisdom that, oh, this is the process. Woman is God. She relieves me of this unpleasant feeling, but why is woman God? Let me just take control. And somehow we've got that down to modern day. Oh, a 16-year-old, the man needs to take control. So I'll leave you with that. But in that process, in that understanding, maybe that reshapes caveman, the image of caveman, wild in nature, humble at home. I don't really care. I didn't really want to make this live stream. I'm just in sheer agony myself.